Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA plus exclusive experiences, discounts, and tickets. Already a AAA member? Upgrade for free or join today at AAA.com/commanders. Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. And also, Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Time, with Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders, and myself. We are back to Therapy Tuesdays. I think everybody could use a dose of that. And I don't blame you if you're feeling a certain way, because the expectations were that this team would be better. And now injuries have played a role, but you can still play better than what they have and look better than what they have for sure. So, and not everybody making mistakes is an injured guy. So we all know that. Anyways, so join us for a 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time Therapy Tuesday session. And for you Gold members, I will be doing another Zoom later in the week. Not sure yet if it's Thursday or Friday. I will let you know in a couple of days. How's that? So just look for the link then. All right, so today is my AAA review, and so I'm going to do my second thoughts. Now, just a little bit warning here. I'm not doing any of the cut-ups today. I did not have time for that. I'm trying to get this out early. We're celebrating my one son's birthday, and coming back off the trip to Dallas, it's just becomes a really kind of a tougher time to do all that. So when I do the cut-ups, it adds a decent amount to the day. So I'm just going to do this, just a bunch of second thoughts based off rewatching the game. I watched almost all of it and enough of it from the other day, but the combination, I have a pretty good feel what happened. So I'm going to be doing all that too, for sure. So, but I just wanted to get into a couple things, and I'm going to start with the Joe Whitt situation. And I don't think there's a situation, but I wanted to address one thing. And I talked about after the game about how, I didn't think they're going to fire him during the season. Well, let me tell you this, that's an opinion. It was not it's not a report. I'm not reporting that it's good, that they're not going to do that. That's not accurate at all. But, and I know what I said, but that's based on an opinion. And it wasn't, if I say it's a report, I'll say like sources say or something like that, right? One way or another. But I don't know that they wouldn't do that, because that's not what I haven't been told anything like that. But that was just an opinion based on Dan Quinn's history, Josh Harris's history, and just knowing that when they look at the situation, even they don't think this is not a one issue situation. That is the problem. When you have situations like this, it's always an organizational failure. So anyways, I just wanted to make that clear. I'm not saying that that's for sure 100%, because I don't know that. And if, because let's say in 4 or 5 weeks, they just keep going, they're disastrous. And the players are a certain way, et cetera. And I'm not saying that's happening right now. I don't know. I'll tell you when I do, if and when I do know. But though I'm kind of getting tongue tied here, but I just want to make it clear. And if I didn't make it clear enough, then that's my bad. And if I didn't want to mislead anybody into thinking like, oh, he's reporting this. I'm not reporting it. I said it. And the other thing is, sometimes you got to remember what your words mean to others. And that's something I always try to keep in mind. Maybe I didn't do the best job in this situation, but but we all know, like, here's the thing. Like, I know, a couple of years ago under Josh Harris, they fired Jack Del Rio. Well, that was kind of a last-ditch effort by Rivera to keep his job. It was also the right move. And they were kind of at the end of the rope here. That was after several years, though, not after 1.5. And also that was Rivera's like, hey, I can make the tough move. Maybe this will be the thing that kind of helps get them over back on track, and you can maintain your job. Of course, that didn't happen, but that was a lot of what went into it. And so but anyways, I can't answer for what's going to happen 4, 5, 6 weeks from now, because I just don't know. But I do think like they're not looking at this. Quinn has said this publicly, but I also believe it to be true that they're not looking at this as oh, you just fixed this and now it's all gone. Like, you just fixed the coaching and now everything's gone. Because remember, when you do that, somebody's got to take over, and it would be him. You want him to call plays. He wants to be in charge of the entire team, and it's then taking other time away from other things that he needs to be doing. So I think it would, just my opinion, it would take a lot to get to that point. But again, like, who knows where this thing is going? We all know the defense isn't playing well. We all see sometimes the same mistakes. The run fits have not been very good. And why is that? Is it a player thing? Is it a scheme thing? Like, the scheme has worked in the past. But so what is the reasoning? And I did ask I know people want to know, like, why, you guys got to, get, I mean, whatever the question asks. So I know people want to know, like, ask Quinn, like, why aren't you going to fire Joe Whitt? Well, he's not going to answer that. He's not going to answer that in the way that you want him to answer it. But what I'm trying to find out is, and I even asked him today, like, what is it that you're looking for that would lead you to deduce that it's a coaching thing versus a player thing, et cetera? Well, he really didn't answer. He talked a little bit, but he didn't really answer it that directly, that to say, like, because sometimes you try to say, okay, if you can get a little bit insight into their thinking, maybe you can see, oh, you start to see or hear things that lead you down a certain path, and then going down a certain path to check that out or whatever. So like that's sometimes part of the thought process too. The other thing, and I said this the other day after the game, and some people don't like it, but that's too bad. I don't sit there and say, this guy should be fired. That's not my job. And, whether you think it is, I know what my job is. But I think like that's something if you have a columnist with you, that's what they do. I analyze, I chronicle, I, ask questions, you dig into things. That's what I do. But, that's not the role that I have. And I also know like there's so much going on here. It can be hard to parcel out, well, what's the issue? Is it the acquisition? Did they not bring in the right players? Did they not have the best depth? Are they not putting them in the best spots? Is it the scheme? Are you asking to do too much of this? Not enough of that. Is it just players not making plays? To me, it's a whole smorgasbord of issues, which ultimately is the problem. And if it was as simple as bench this guy or that guy, get rid of this person or that person, then maybe they would have done that already. So I just think that that's the hard part in this situation, to kind of parcel out where is the bulk of the blame. And I know what makes people feel good if you just put one guy accountable, but does that solve the issue? And that's what they're looking at. They're not going to make what they would consider any sort of rash decisions, whether, if you're going to bench a guy, you're going to make a change, you're going to do this, it's got to be with some deep discussion. And they work for an owner who wants like any sort of big move, you're going to go through him, but to at least to make sure he knows that this is why. But I'm not going down that road. But even just talking about benchings or anything like that, or changes and whatever like that, there's a lot of stuff that goes into those kind of decisions and the work you put into it. But anyways, we all know that there are issues on defense. We all know that, and those haven't changed. So we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, anyway, that's what I had to say on that, but just want to make that clear. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. I don't like eating out a lot on the road, especially for breakfast. That's why I bring my Huel Black Edition powder with me on the road. It fills me up and I'm ready to go. I've cut down on what I eat in the morning. I've even lost a few pounds. Each meal has 40 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. There's no added sugar, it's gluten-free, and it can cost as little as less than $3 per meal, and it's ready in 60 seconds. And now Huel just dropped a first-of-its-kind Super Greens drink in a can. It's called the Huel Daily Greens Ready to Drink. It was developed by registered nutritionists and dietitians and contains 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods, yet there's only 25 calories. It also has 4 grams of fiber and only 1 gram of sugar. If you're busy, focused on fitness, Huel can be a big help. Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also just launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with my exclusive code Keim at www.huel.com/Keim. Use my code and fill out the post-checkout survey to help to support the show. Cheers. So another thought here. Dorrance Armstrong's injury is a big crusher. And it's like, I know they're not playing well on defense, but when you lose the guy who leads you in sacks and was one of the guys who was playing very consistently for you, it's not a good thing, because now who's coming in? And this is now the third defensive end who is now lost for the year. And this time it's with a torn ACL, hurt it early in the first quarter, rushing the passer. But at training camp, he was one of the guys that jumped out to me, and one of the few guys to me that carried training camp performance into the season. Not enough guys have done that. And I think Kinlaw has done that. I think Deron Payne has done that, but not enough other guys. Certainly, I think Trey Amos has done a nice job. He was up a little bit up and down yesterday or Sunday, but overall, I think he's done a really solid job. But I think Armstrong for sure was the guy that I talked about a lot during the summer, and he played out that way, the way he was being used. He was staying up more, did it in the past, but just was doing it more, moving around more than he was last year because I think there was a comfort level playing here in this defense and the role they had for him, and it showed. And it's a shame for him because you get a chance to be in that situation, and then you have something like this. So it's an unfortunate one, and it does hurt the defense. And it's unfortunate for him. But it's funny because like sometimes you see things in the summertime, and again, like it can be a mirage. The overall defense, folks, it was a mirage. And again, sometimes it takes a minute to realize, was it this or was it that? And it turns out it was that. And it was the offense that just never found a rhythm during the summertime because in part people were missing McLaurin, Noah Brown. McLaurin, obviously a bigger deal, but when you lose a couple guys on the outside, it does have an impact. And you never saw the comfort level in the offense, and you still haven't seen them have this great rhythm from week to week. It just hasn't happened. That is also what we saw this summer, and we talked about it this summer. But you didn't know, like, what you don't know is, okay, what's it going to look like when McLaurin comes back, when Noah Brown comes back? Well, they did come back for a short time, and now they're out, and they're still out. And Noah Brown obviously on IR. I don't know Terry's status for this week. We'll get more into that later in the week. But we didn't even come up in the Quinn presser today because we kind of know what he's going to say. See you on Thursday when they get back to practice. Anyways, I'm going to get Jayden Daniels in. There's good news there, but we're still not sure what it means. Anyway, number 3, Marshon Lattimore. I don't know what exactly to do with him. And I don't think that it's always as simple. Again, I'm going to go back to the play before halftime because I did want to talk about that. I talked about that on the podcast, and I still want to check that out more with people there to see what is it that he should have done differently or better on that play. And my first thought was, why are you in that? Like, why he's up in press and you're kind of inviting Dak Prescott to throw the ball deep. The others appear to be in quarters. Now it's a 1x4 set. And we had a conversation with Logan Paulson today about the 1x4s and like what teams typically do. And the slant on the backside is a route that often is run. And Lattimore does appear to be in man. At first I thought he looked like man, then dropped his own, then converted back because it was on his side, but appears to be in man all the way. But I think clearly it was a really good throw by Prescott, but it's a 2nd and 17. And it's a tough one to play like that. But again, if it's a situation where you're trying to get Prescott to maybe throw the ball deep and maybe turn it into a lower percentage throw, but that's not what happened. And ultimately, it was a very good throw, and you're playing Pickens, who does a great job on contested catches. That's what he's known for. And so it was just a tough call overall. But just sometimes the ball just keeps finding you, and I think that's what's happening with Lattimore. Now, do you put him on the bench? What do you do? Make a change there? Part of the problem is, folks, 3 of their top 5 corners are all better on the inside, and that's Samerstill, Igbenogany, and Jonathan Jones. Like their best spots are inside. Now, they can all play outside, but is that going to solve the problem there? I don't know that. They seem to like what Lattimore adds in terms of attitude, the dog, etc. But it's, he's getting penalties a lot, and we've seen that. And I don't know that they're going to do anything there. But would it solve issues on the defense? No, it might make some people feel better because, like, yeah, he's finally out. I don't know that that's going to help them, though, because it's not like the others are doing great. Amos, I think, again, has been solid. And I think I really like what he adds here, but I don't know. And so it doesn't mean you don't do anything. I just don't know that that's the easy solution to this because I see mistakes by the entire secondary every week. And so like that to me is the bigger problem. And that goes back to other issues that we just talked about earlier. If it's always the same thing, then who ultimately is responsible for that? And at what point does that become? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know like as Quinn said, they're going to look at everything and we'll see what they come out with because they do have kind of an extra day this week and you got your bye in a few weeks. So we'll see what goes from there. All right. Yeah, like I said, there are other issues there. And you saw it the other day, even Like there was a couple times in the red zone, the tight end might block down, the defensive back's eyes go inside because the tight end blocks down. Just the other day, like then the tight end releases, Savage is looking inside, and then Ferguson's wide open for a touchdown. Amos got beat a couple times. Sanders still got beat, right? Gave up a couple throws, but we know that Lattimore gives up big plays, and partly because he covers really good receivers, and they're going to go after him. And so, that's just what happens. And some of those receivers do this against pretty much a lot of defensive backs. That's not to absolve anybody, because if the same mistakes are happening, then you have to look at everything. That's, when you're bad, you look at everything, and that's what they should do. All right, another thought here. I like what Jordan Magee continues to add. He had 21 snaps the other day on Sunday, season high for him. And I like that you feel his speed when he's on the field. I don't, there are a lot of times in base formations. There's one time they're in a base formation, and that's when Quan Martin had to end up covering CD Lamb because he was a slot guy and caught a pass on him on the outside. But that's what happens when you're playing a lot of base. You're going to get some mismatches because of what offenses can do. But I do like Magee, and I do at some point would like to see more and just what he could do full time. Seeing it in snippets, it tells you a little bit, but to see it over time, it takes, or to see, doesn't mean over the course of a game, it should be the same way. And it's different when you're on there with guys who know a lot and can help you with that versus when you're the guy in charge of getting everybody in the right spot. That's a lot of responsibility. Now, I don't know if he's ready for that. I do know that when he's on there, you can feel the speed, and I like that. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. Jayden Daniels. So I think by now, like the MRI came back and it was good news for the long term. Still don't know what it means for the short term. Still a hamstring injury, and those can be very tricky. And you have to be careful coming back from those. They better feel you don't want to feel any tightness at all, because the chances of making it worse then increase. Now, what we do know, again, the MRI, and this is what I thought would happen, is that the MRI would not show any long-term damage. It doesn't mean we know that what's going to happen from Monday at Kansas City, because we don't know. It's a hamstring, and those things, again, can be tricky. We'll know more on Thursday with his status, but even then, I think the drill by now. We're not going to probably know, if he's out there practicing full, that's a really good sign. If it's just limited, then who knows? So I think there's still going to be more to learn there, but the good news is it's not a long-term thing. The other thing is, it's not an injury that was caused by him running. The first one was a scramble, get hit in the knee. This one was, you're in the pocket, there's a free rusher, and it was a blitz that they did not anticipate because the way the line blocked down, and I think Jayden was a bit surprised to see him coming. Now, in a free rusher case, like the quarterback's got rid of it, and he was going to throw a slant to Zach Ertz, but Shamar Jones was in his face. That's why he brings the ball down, and then Jones just kind of knocks it away, and that's when he gets to the ground, hurts the hamstring, and limps off. But the good news is not a long-term thing. I don't know yet what that means. The thing is, funny thing is, like last week against the Bears, he had two killer plays, like the interception and then, of course, the fumble. I did like on the fumble, he did have a fumble on Sunday, but instead of trying to corral it and stick it in the gut of the running back, he grabbed it, secured it, and then he goes in for a score. So, like, I like that 1 week to the next, you kind of like, because in last week against the Bears, maybe, and certainly in hindsight, of being like, just eat it. Now it's a 3rd and 1, you want to pick it up because it could close out the game, but just eat it. Or do what he did Sunday, which is make sure you corral it first before you then go try and hand it off when the ball is kind of bouncing in your hand. So anyways, and against the Bears, outside of those plays, he did a really nice job. Now Sunday, it was not a very good game. And it was certainly not his best game. The Cowboys have defended him well the last couple of years. But it's just like some of this is could have just be the attrition of the injury of the receiver core. Well, certainly the Cowboys did what the Bears did and played a lot of man coverage because they knew they could. And even Brian Schottenheimer said that based on the analytics, that's the way to play them. Well, I think it's probably based on film too, because guys just aren't getting open enough to call the dogs off, so to speak, from that kind of thing. But there are more errant throws that we've seen from Jayden in other games. And just now, whether it's the timing of the route with new receivers or maybe the depth of the route, like you're getting used to that, I don't know. And could it just be all on him? Sure. Could it be some on the receiver? Sure. It could. Oftentimes it's the case, right? But he also had one to Zach Ertz where he just airmailed it, and like that was an unusual miss for him. Like that was an open guy, and why it was like that, I don't know, but it just was. And so you saw enough of that throughout the game where it was difficult. Then you also had Ertz dropping one, you had Jalen Lane dropping one. So those don't help when you have an offense that's not doing well or needing a spark or needing to be much better. You can't drop those balls when you're right in your hands. But I did think like that was certainly not his best game. And we'll see. Like they desperately need 17 back and Deebo Samuel back. What that will look like, I don't know, because with McLaurin has missed so much time since the spring that it's really hard to think like, oh, he's going to come back and just be himself. Like that would be asking a lot. We'll see what happens. But anyways, regardless, did not think it was Daniel's best game. There were a couple good, so there were a couple decisions where there was one or two times, like typically he gets rid of the ball quick and takes the profit, so to speak. A couple of times where I felt like he passed him up a little bit. Maybe he looked off. There was one time Jalen Lane, it looks like he's breaking behind the linebacker open on a crosser. And it looks like Jayden's looking in that direction, then kind of pulls it down and looks elsewhere. And I think he ends up having to run and throwing an incomplete pass. But there are a couple of times where I thought maybe he passed some things up that he typically might not. And you start to wonder, like, are you starting to feel like you have to do a little bit more than you should? But then he kind of got back into taking what was there most of the time. So it wasn't like a game-long thing. It was a couple plays where I just wondered, was it something where like, hey, maybe you need to start taking more of this profit here. But yeah, I will say, like, I do like what I've seen from Jalen Lane. I do think like I like what to see when you get your other receivers back, what it looks like for him, because I do think he can do some things that can help you every game, whether it's as a returner, but also just in the pass game, because I think he has more of that quickness to separate. And you saw it like even on the 35-yard catch he had. That wasn't the design route. That was based off the scramble, but the design route was a comeback and he was covered. But the minute he saw Daniels start to scramble, he turns upfield. And that's when Daniels hit him. Now on the throw, it was a little bit underthrown. The safety would, even if it's hitting him in stride, the safety is going to come over and get him. A little bit underthrown, and on the play, doesn't look like Daniels completely follows through on it. And he, pushes more off his front leg and just kind of like drifts back after the throw. So it was a little bit underthrown, but again, I don't think it would have resulted in a bigger game than what it was. And it was still a good ball because it was there and it was open. But what I liked on the play was Lane just boom, boom. And his ability to get to a quick speed right away is something that I think is a strength. And you saw it last week on the double move, the acceleration out of it. And I think you saw it there, the acceleration out of when he had to adjust off the route, the acceleration there, I think was a really good thing. So I do like what he can add. I think as one of the young guys, a good pickup there. Josh Connolly, another one. So I like and one thing I want to get to in the future, you start to look at building blocks for the future. We're not there yet. It's 3-4. I know there's 10 games left. Long way to go. Whether you like it or not, there still is. But with the offensive line, I do like that they have a good group, I think, for the future. For I always felt like, again, second half of the year, I feel like should be their strength. But I do like what Connolly is. I like Tunsil, I think, clearly a keeper. Chris Paul, I really like what he's done. And there was only one or two plays where there's one play where he had to pull the other day to kick out a defensive end on a pass play, and he misses the end. And it's actually one where Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt goes out for a screen, and if you block the end, you got Krosky-Merritt for a nice little gain down the side there, but end gets inside and bats the ball. And so, you know, didn't work. But that was one of the few times because Paul does a really good job, and I think he blocks with a lot of power, and I like that. So he's good. You know, Biotis, I think, is a solid center. Cosme back. So that means you got to get Connolly up to speed, and you do see progression and improvement. You see it in the run game. There were times on Sunday where you saw him riding out Dante Fowler, and like say whatever you want, like he is still a professional pass rusher who had 10, led this team in sack last year. So not a bad job there, but you still see sometimes giving some stuff up to the inside, and sometimes it's a matter of and getting like guys getting into his chest. I do like that where he's holding his hands now is better. It's at a better spot than it was early in the year. Early in the year it was like below the waist at times and a little bit too wide. Now it's above the waist and they're in better spots, ready to strike. So there is a progression. Just it might be a little thing, but it kind of is. It's a steady progression. I think like the play strength thing, he's going to have to work on that a lot in the offseason. So that's going to be something you see next year, but I think there's progression. Like to see some more consistency in some of those areas, and like I'd be curious to see what it's like when he goes up against some of the guys down the road against the Giants pass rushers who we have a better measuring stick now from game one to that time. But I think there's progression there. So I like that this group, if they stay together, that they can be for the next couple of years something that is a building block for at least the offense. And I think there's still a lot of parts you need on the other side of the ball, and you're still going to need some parts on offense for sure. And we'll get into that more in the future. Again, not ready to go down that road just yet. Cosme coming back for the first game. Dan Quinn said he believed there was only one mental error. A couple of times where maybe like did a nice job for a guy just coming back. I will say that. A couple of times where like, maybe, he missed a block, or there was one time getting out the second level where it would have been a good run, but as he's coming off the double team, trips over a defensive lineman's foot and it prevents him from getting out there. So is that a rust thing or is it just a bad luck thing, right? But overall, like it's good to have that guy back. I think like that's going to help that front for sure. And now you have really good, the one area you have really good depth is the offensive line. And I think him coming back and get Wiley's versatile, Allegretti, Coleman's still there. So anyways, that's what we got there. So, all right, folks, listen, man, that's it for me. I'm running out of steam and I hope you guys have a better day and I hope we all have a better day. So appreciate you tuning in. I'll be back on Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern time with Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.